are you recovered from, and then what is the spiritual experience at the end of it? What does that look like?
Right.
What does that mean by spiritual experience?
Okay. Well, I would say I would go to spiritual awakening rather than a spiritual experience, because I think I had a spiritual experience which got me into the 12-step program, right? So an experience with God that, well, I was never able to stop using even for a day, right? And then one day all of a sudden I'm able to stop using and get myself to detox. And for a guy who went to 12 treatment centers, to think the one time I actually got sober was the time I didn't go to treatment. 5 years ago was the only time I didn't go to treatment, and it actually worked for me. So
Wow.
there's something spiritual in that, right? So as for the steps, like there's 12 steps that you go through just basically to realize how bad it is, realize that my body and my mind are different. I suffer from an illness that says my body, if I take anything mood altering, I'm screwed. I'm not going to stop me until I'm out of money or until I'm in jail or until someone stops me, right? And then after I'm stopped, I have the mind problem, which is, it always brings me back to it, right? Like I said earlier, I forget how bad it was. For some reason, even a week later, I'm not even going to remember that I ended up in detox. I stole my wife's bank card, and she wasn't my wife at the time, but I stole my girlfriend's bank card. I stole off my mom, and I made my mom cry. I remember one night, I was like getting money off my mother, and I still hug her every now and then to try and make up for this. I can never make up for it, right? She's like, she's crying. She's like, you're not using this for drugs. She's bawling. And I said, I'm using it for drugs, Mom. And I forced her to get me the money, and she was bawling, crying. And but I had no care in the world, right? So that was, I could go a week later, and I would come down from that binge, right? And I'd be so regretful and so remorseful that I did that to my mom. And then 3 days later, I'd be asking my mom for money for drugs again or something like that, right? And just no feelings, no care in the world about it, right? So that's the mind part. It tells me that I don't have a problem, right? Or this time it's going to be different, right? And then there's the spiritual side, which that's where the awakening comes in, I think, right? So the 12 steps, basically, they tell me I have a problem. They give me hope that there's a solution to my problem. They help me clear out some of the crap. So the problem, they say, you need power. That power is God. And yes, it's God. It's not, for me anyway, sorry, I'm a little judgmental on the whole higher power stuff. For me, the big book in Alcoholics Anonymous brings you to God. And whichever God that is for you, that's fine, but it has to bring you to God, right? And God is the power that I need to stay sober. So they tell me I have a problem. They said, you can't solve it. You got to find God. And then they help me do that by clearing up all the crap, all that stuff of wanting to be liked by other people, all that stuff of needing that to feel whole, all this stuff of I'm afraid what everyone thinks, like this. So the steps 4, 5, 6 are clearing me up of that crap, right? And then I go out 8, 9 steps are clearing up, saying sorry to my mom and saying sorry, not sorry, but really like just trying to make it right, trying to make it as though it didn't happen. And then the spiritual experience, I think, comes sometime in there, right? I realize that God is actually working in my life, and somewhere in the process, all of a sudden, I have this conscious contact with Him. And it also helps that I went to church on the side, and I married a Christian woman who had Jesus in her life, so that helped a little bit too. But for me, it wasn't as easy as, okay, there's Jesus, I believe in you, Jesus. It was, I had to do the 12 steps in order to be able to believe in Jesus, be able to really contact Him and be in contact with Him and access the power. So the awakening, the spiritual awakening is a daily thing that I have to keep, right? So I have recovered. I said I recovered from the mind and body thing, right? So my mind no longer tricks me into going back to drugs. I recoil from it, like it says. I have no interest. I could be right beside it and not do it, right? My body's, I don't have that problem anymore because drugs and alcohol aren't in me, right? But the spiritual malady I have because of, I always say because of Adam and Eve, right? I have that malady that's in my human nature. I'm a bad person inside, and I'm always going to revert to human nature. So I needed that spiritual awakening, which is an ongoing thing, to keep the mind and body recovered.